built on relationships, focused on people, and rooted in the community. Welcome to the Build Blue Podcast. Tune in for weekly episodes featuring guests who are building a better tomorrow. You'll hear inspiring stories from industry leaders, business owners, community partners, and our team members. The Build Blue Podcast, where construction comes to life. An Apex Construction Group production. Welcome to the Build Blue Podcast. My name is Jess Blaze with Apex Construction Group, and I am joined today. Once again, this is our second episode in our brand new office. So we have kind of a new backdrop, which is fun. You get a view of the city if you're watching the podcast on YouTube. I'm joined by Brad Boettcher from Clifton Larson Allen Accounting. CLA. Thank you.
Just so much shorter.
It's so much better. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
This is
beautiful
good
space.
Thank you.
Nicest day of the year so far, too.
I know. Awesome. Everybody's in such a good mood. So this is a perfect day to be talking to you because you're fun. Before we get into our main questions, we have to ask our Apex Icebreaker. We ask all of our guests this.
All right.
If you could own and operate any business, what would it be?
You know, my Facebook feed's been blowing up from this guy who feeds the birds, and he's been upset because of the bird flu. Like, that looks so fun. I feel like I should do that. Like, give me a chance. I feel like I could do that.
You could be the bird guy.
I could be the bird guy.
Do you have a bathrobe?
I could get one. Amazon, 2 days, it'll be fine. Amazon Prime will take care of me.
Oh, my gosh. So let's talk about your role at CLA and give us a little bit of your background and what you do there.
Yep. So I've been with the firm now. It's been 16 years, which is hard to believe because we'll have interns now that were barely even alive when I started, unfortunately. But so I'm a principal in our Mankato location here. Like I said, I've been with the firm for 16 years. My background is mostly serve. So it's all business owners for the most part, but primarily in the construction, real estate, and manufacturing spaces. I get involved in a lot of different things. I've been very fortunate to have a lot of different opportunities. But my passion usually tends to be more focused on anything that's kind of employee development is kind of a big passion of mine. So a lot of developing and recruiting of employees is where I spend a fair amount of time when I'm not serving our clients. That's
really interesting. So what has that been like for you considering the current climate?
So it's been different. It's been really cool for us. Our sales pitch is always our culture. That's always the piece we say, but COVID's really kind of tested that a little bit. So, for accountants, we're not usually the most social people.
Except for you.
Except for me. But it was really cool to see, like, when COVID first hit, nobody knew what to do. So, for the time being, really limit the people in the office. And we actually got a lot of pushback from employees who wanted to be back. So, by that fall, fall of 2020, I think we had about 80% of the people who were kind of back in the office. And then when we moved into our new space in December of 2020, pretty much everybody was back in the office. And it's kind of been business as usual. I mean, we've been very fortunate that we've always had the ability to work from home if we needed or be very flexible because all we need is a laptop and we can do anything from anywhere. But that part's been really cool to see is because, again, our culture is our sales pitch from a recruiting standpoint. And that really shined through and people were like, well, we're accountants, we don't like people in general, and that's a stereotype, but we really wanted to be together, and that was super cool.
Is there a lot of collaboration
there is.
At your firm?
It is, yep. So it as much as it's, only, everybody has their individual tasks, but it is very much, everything is very team-oriented, which for me coming into it, I was not expecting that. I did not expect, it's much more of a team sport than what I was expecting when I had joined the firm and kind of got into public accounting. So it's a lot of time with coworkers. I joke with my wife, especially during tax season. I spend way more time with my coworkers than I do with my family, which it's fine for a few months. My wife probably actually enjoys it a little bit better, but
a little break.
Yeah, a little bit of break, but we're going through a transition period now where she's having to get used to having me home again. So we're working through it. It'll be fine. That's
right, because you are wrapped up with tax season now.
Wrapped up tax season. Now it kind of gets into, we just completed some employee reviews, and then May and June I get a lot of flack at the office, but I take a fair number of vacations in May and June. You. So it's about every other week I'm on vacation. So I get in trouble a little bit at the office, but no, it'll be good.
Good for you. You deserve it. So let's talk about young Brad choosing his career path.
Wait, this is old Brad?
Younger.
Thanks.
Younger Brad. Yeah. Well, your intern.
I know, my coworker's going to love that. Hopefully hope they don't hear that.
Your intern comment. We have a couple of fantastic interns here at Apex, and I never had really considered myself as like getting old or like that middle age kind of thing until one of them was like, "My mom loves you," and I was like, "Well, you tell your mom I said hello. Thank you."
Yeah, it's a challenge again. Every year gets a little bit worse. There was like 2 years ago, I had an intern who was very nice and gracious and pointed out that my now 12-year-old daughter is closer to her age than I am to the intern, which is always fantastic to hear that my kids are more relatable to them.
Yes.
And then this year, I think there's a 1-year age difference between me and the parent of one of our interns, which is fantastic. That's what I mean. Great. I don't know what time when and how this happened, but
welcome to middle age. Yeah, here we are.
Somehow it feels like overnight I got old fast.
So let's go back to younger Brad.
Yes. Yep.
How did you decide to pursue a career in accounting?
So I kind of struggled with that a little bit. So when I went to college, I was kind of torn. I liked math. I was good at it. I'm an arrogant person. I like what I'm good at. So I was good at math and I enjoyed teaching. So I was kind of like, well, kind of like business. I kind of like math. I kind of like teaching, and I took some classes that first semester of college, and I was like, well, the business piece comes more natural to me. So that's kind of how I got involved in basically in college, just kind of trying things out, and that's what I enjoyed. And then the ironic part, as we talked about, of me being very involved in kind of recruiting and developing people, I do a lot more teaching than I was really kind of expecting.
Sure.
So it's kind of been a nice blend for me to be able to take the pieces that I enjoy and be able to put them all together.
That's fantastic. So my brain doesn't do numbs.
Neither does mine. It's fine. That's what we have the interns for.
Don't tell my boss that. I'm wondering, like, do you get a rush when you like figure out the problem, or when all the numbers line up and everything looks good?
So it's a little cheesy. I get a rush when somebody else does that. Like for the interns, as we try to develop them, like they get excited when things start to click.
Yeah.
I don't get excited about that stuff because, to be honest, that's not the part I really enjoy that much anymore. I try to do as very little of the actual work, so to speak. But the actual accounting part, I mean, if I do that, it kind of takes away an opportunity from somebody else to learn that stuff. So that's a big piece. We try to have them, and that part. I really do get a rush when things kind of click for the younger staff as they're developing, and they have those light bulb moments, or if they get their first client, like it's super exciting to just watch how excited they get. That stuff really gets me excited, and that's kind of what gets my day or keeps my day going.
So you help grow and develop the guys and girls who geek out when the numbers all fit together.
But just to be clear, I take full credit when something is done correctly. I take full credit for it, but they do all the work.
This is just how it works, guys. You work with a lot of business owners, and you talked about that at the beginning. So what advice would you give to someone who's thinking of starting their own business?
Sure. So starting a business, it's something we deal with a lot. We get a lot of people. I mean, we are a very large firm, to be clear, but our niche is privately held businesses, and that can be anybody from somebody who's starting a business out of their garage or their basement all the way to multi-billion-dollar companies. I mean, that's kind of our niche. The piece that I tell any business owner is find that network of people that you can really use as your sounding board. I mean, accountants, attorneys, bankers, those are all great. Try and build a network of other business owners, even if it really doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in their industry necessarily, but just having people to bounce ideas off of, because as a business owner, there's so many different challenges. Every day there's something new that comes up. And if there's anything we've learned the last few years of COVID, you never know what's going to come up. Mm-hmm. And there's been all kinds of different challenges. So the more that you can lean on others to get ideas and just have that sounding board, that's probably the biggest thing that I'd really encourage people to try to do. I mean, the networking part is extremely important. I mean, how all this plays together, and the more you can build that network, the better off you're going to be.
Oh, that's great advice. Let's go back to the young people and the developing new talent. What advice would you give to young people as they're starting out their career, like kind of a mentor tip?
So the biggest question or the advice that we give everybody when they start as interns, we're very fortunate, very blessed that we have extremely bright and talented people. I mean, we recruit, and I'm arrogant in this piece, but I think it's the best of the best. I really do. I mean, they're fantastic. But at a young age and through school, you're taught to basically always be right. Like, that's the expectation, is to always be right. Well, when you come to this profession, you're never right. I mean, that's just unfortunately the way it is, because you learn so much in school, but that's just kind of the foundation, and you really learn a lot more on the job and kind of how to do this. So it's a big transition piece to go from, especially somebody who's for 18, 19, 20 years of their life, they've conditioned to always be right, and then to have that where nothing you do seems right. Now for us, that's normal, because we've grown up in that. Like, that's, I've been doing this, like I said, for a long time. We're used to that, but that is a big hurdle to overcome of, well, wait, I didn't do this right, and I didn't do this right, and I didn't do this right, and it's a big challenge to get through, and that's the biggest piece. Is I tell people, you don't worry about it. It's just relax. It's fine. We've all gone through it, and we'll help you through it, but it is a huge hurdle to overcome.
I can imagine. That would be, we actually had a great kid in for a job shadow not long ago, and he was speaking to that and how much he's learned from what could be considered a failure.
Right.
And I thought that was so
absolutely.
wise for someone, who still has a couple years left in college, to hear him talk about that. It was really cool.
That's great insight, because I mean, it's very cliche, but you for sure learn more from making mistakes than, because when you make a mistake, the natural reaction is you feel horrible, and you never want to have that happen again. So you learn from that to make sure that doesn't happen again. Yeah. But, from your successes, it's great to have the ego boost and to help build that confidence, but you don't learn the same from it. So that's a fantastic insight.
Yeah, it really is. A lot of the folks that we've had on the podcast here have talked about how technology is changing their industry. So what have you guys seen in the accounting world for technology and changes and kind of what's coming next?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. I've been around long enough to see a lot of it where, I mean, computers were
but not old. We're not old.
Yeah, not old, but still been around long enough. But it is, I mean, the technology piece to look at, even over the 16 years that I've done this, to see how, I mean, we're just flat out reliant on it. I mean, it's built in so many efficiencies. Every year there's new pieces. I mean, there's aspects that are fantastic and great about it, because, like I said, all I need is my laptop, and I literally can work from anywhere, and it's just like I'm in the office. So that part it's fantastic, especially in today's world where flexibility is so key, and to be able to do that. So if I've been very fortunate. I've never had to miss any of my kids' stuff, because I can literally work from anywhere. Yep. So if we need to go somewhere and I work from the hotel room or whatever for a couple hours, that's fine. But it has been great for that part. But every year it's something new. The big piece probably coming on the horizon, and I shouldn't say on the horizon, it's here now, but it's kind of the data analytics piece. With any business, there's tons of access to information. I mean, it's no different in business. I mean, that's just like social media. Yeah. Information galore. We've never had more access to information, to data. So the big piece is, well, how do you take all that information and pull that together into something that's usable? So that's been a big trend that we've seen the last couple of years, and that's going to be even more so going forward, is how do we use all that data to make informed decisions and be able to grow from that, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have someone on your team, or multiple people on your team who are doing those kinds of work?
Traditionally in an accounting firm, you hire accountants, right? Well, for us, I mean, we're hiring more and more IT specialists and data scientists, and I don't understand most of what they do. They talk to me about it. I'm like, yeah, that sounds really impressive. I mean, I can't even pronounce most of the words you say, but that sounds great. But yeah, it's a much more broad hiring pool that we look at now, where it's not, accountants obviously are still a big piece of this, but it's a lot broader as the needs are changing. And the biggest driver is really technology.
So you guys are a nationwide firm, but how many team members do you have locally in Mankato?
Yeah, so we're a little unique. So yes, we are a nationwide firm. The way we function is all of our locations in southern Minnesota, and that'd be New Ulm, Mankato, Owatonna, Austin, Rochester. We all function as one. So, even this week I was in Owatonna earlier in the week, and we kind of bounce between locations. So in Mankato, we sit, depending on the time of the year, it's about 40 to 45 people. but in all of southern Minnesota, we're sitting at about 150.
Wow.
So it's fantastic because it's great because we still have we have the functionality of a very small office, of just being a small location in Mankato, but still being part of a larger group in southern Minnesota. So we get, like, there was one of our gals in the office today from, she started in Mankato, and due to some family pieces is actually transitioned to our Owatonna office. So she came in for today just to kind of see people.
Cool. So
it's fun to reconnect, and so you get to kind of, I don't want to say it's new people all the time, but you get to kind of reconnect with different people, but still being part of a very large firm and having all those resources. So it's kind of the best of all the worlds, and it's been fantastic to have that flexibility.
Let's talk about your swanky new office.
Oh, the
your
office
digs.
is so nice. Well, I mean, you've kind of seen your own here. I'm sure it's fantastic, but that was a really nice change. I mean, you don't really realize, I didn't realize how nice that new shiny office would be until we got in there. I was like, this is really nice. And the biggest piece is, so it's a different setup than I was expecting initially, where the offices for us are on the inside of the space, and then kind of the younger staff all sit on the outside with the floor-to-ceiling windows.
Oh.
And traditionally the offices are all on the outside, and I'm a big deal because I get a window. But it opens things up so much, and it's so much brighter that it's weird to say. I was never a huge believer in it, but the sunlight makes a big difference just on the moods and how I feel, and it's fantastic.
You're so right, and we moved downtown the middle of April, so it hasn't been a super long time. We've got these huge windows and this like view of the hill, and
We've
this
got a gorgeous
view of the park.
Fantastic.
And your view is probably, I don't know how you're situated in your building, but it's probably similar view, just a different vantage point.
Yep.
But it does make such a difference just having that natural light come in.
It's so nice.
Our plants are thriving.
My plastic plants have always been fine. That's no
my
problem.
plants are plastic too, but we have people in the office with real plants. I should clarify, because I kill plants.
How's your new space been? You guys
We
loving
love
it.
We love it so much, and it's just this atmosphere of like really being in it.
Yeah.
And we had a great office up on Highway 14 that we built brand new. We just outgrew it really quickly. And we left it up there too, but like getting downtown, and we have this joke in the marketing office, like that we're so urban now. Like we have to park in the parking ramp and we're so urban. Switch our shoes out when we get into our office. But no, we really like it, and it's just it's fun to be really like in the heartbeat of the community.
Yeah, again, back to the younger Brad and being older Brad now. I mean, I've been downtown Mankato my entire career. Well, when I first started, there was just the start of the kind of revitalization of the city center, and to see how that's progressed and grown is so cool, because it was pretty quiet downtown originally when I first started, but now, especially as the weather's finally getting nice, it's just so lively downtown, and to just have access to patios, most importantly.
Yes.
But it's
rooftops.
It's so nice. Yeah.
And you see people walking, and like songs on the lawn will be happening soon.
The only downside I've had so far is like when you have those nice days and I actually have to work.
I know.
Those are so tough. That is so tough.
Today's a good example.
Today's a perfect example.
Watching the clock, looking outside.
When it's been 6 months of winter.
I know. I know, that is tough. And you're really involved in the community too. Do you want to talk about some of your community involvement and the passion that you have for that?
Yeah, I've been very blessed, like I said, to have been asked to participate in a lot of different things. I used to be extremely involved in junior achievement. That was a big one early in my career. I give Jackie Sprague a ton of credit for that one, as she allowed me to, usually I'm just a bean counter, just an accountant, so usually that's, people ask like, oh yeah, we need help with our finances or something like that, and she was great that she took a risk on a very young, naive Brad, and actually let me do some leadership roles. So it was a great experience to build kind of that leadership piece for me as I worked through a few different positions. So I really owe a lot to her for that. But been very blessed to be involved in United Way for a long time. I mean, it's probably
that's a lifetime.
10 years or something. It's been fantastic that I've been in lots of different roles, served on different committees, and been on the board. Have not been as active in the board as now my kids are getting older, so some of the board meetings don't line up with kids' activities. But unfortunately for United Way, The kids' activities have subsided a little bit in the summer, so
You'll be
back
back.
and a little more involved.
We'll welcome you with open arms. That's the joke. Brad and I are both members of the United Way board, and that's the joke, is that once you're in
You're in for
you're
life.
in forever,
Yes. Yep.
which is great.
No, it's been fantastic. I mean, it's a piece that, so when my wife and I came to MSU for school, and we really we fell in love with Mankato, and it's amazing. Like, we're both from a very, very small town, a few hundred people, and Mankato's been this perfect, amazing blend of it. It still has that small town feel, but being a larger community that has access to the resources, or if there's something that's not here, it's an hour to Minneapolis. I mean, we've just been very fortunate to be welcomed by the community so much and to have these opportunities that really are very fortunate. And honestly, to have friends like you has been a ton of fun. And
It's so fun, and it's cool. Like, I didn't go to college here, but I came here right after college.
Yeah.
So to kind of grow up, and similar to your and your wife's story, just to kind of grow up in this community as like your first full-time jobs, and you're and I remember moving here and I was like, someday I want to work downtown. I'm gonna have a big office downtown, and now I'm like, oh, look at me now.
Yeah, it's a piece, to bring it back to kind of the young kids again.
Yeah.
I keep calling the interns kids, and
I call interns kids too, and they're like, roll their eyes.
But it's amazing to me, and I didn't, I for sure didn't know this going to college here, and we recruit a lot of people from MSU just being so close. But I always equate Mankato into kind of two different communities. You have kind of the college life, and then you kind of have the rest, kind of after college piece. And it's so cool that there's this blend of both, and how it works in the community so well. I mean, it's a very unique perspective that you can kind of have both of those very different cultures, so to speak, but yet it blends together so nicely.
And I think the way that the non-college community embraces
Absolutely.
the college community with
Yes.
the sports and things like that, it really is just
Mavs hockey this last year was a perfect example
amazing.
to see how Hockey Day Minnesota was, and
so
how
good.
fantastic that team did this year, and to see how the college community and the Mankato community came together on it. It's so cool.
It is. It's
so awesome.
It's really a special city, and I lost track of my questions, which is probably good because I think I had more accounting questions, and
Nobody wants to talk
we'll
accounting.
just gloss over
Honestly,
that.
that was my biggest fear in all of this. I was like, oh, I really hope Jess doesn't ask me, like, oh, what's new in accounting? And we just sit here in awkward silence for 20 minutes.
Tell me some exciting accounting things, Brad.
There's nothing.
And that's a wrap. Is there anything you'd like to add, if you want to give any contact information or social media channels for CLA or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anybody has any questions, or if they're thinking about businesses or just anything, honestly, I mean, yeah, we're accountants, but I mean, I field very few accounting questions, to be honest. Most of them, it's acting as that sounding board. So, I mean, feel free to reach out to any of us here in the community. You can go to myCLA, so it's www.myclaconnect.com. You can go on there, and it has all of our contact information, or you can reach out to me directly locally, or any of the people here in our local office, and love to help anybody out with anything that we're able to.
Awesome. Brad Boettcher from CLA. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Build Blue
Thanks
podcast.
a lot for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Enjoy this beautiful day. If you don't go back to your office, that's not my problem.
I'll have to go back, unfortunately.
Make your way downtown.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice out there. It's so great to finally have some warm weather again.
It's like that feeling of camaraderie when it finally gets nice and people are like high-fiving strangers on the street, like, we did it. Yes, we made it.
Finally, we survived one more winter.
This has been the Build Blue podcast. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. And we'll see you next week.